last parts of the job we're going to be doing today. It's a Kverneland mower, the hydraulic cylinder that raises the blade up on the Kverneland mower. The hydraulic cylinder was blown and leaking, so we're cleaning up all the parts right now. We're going to assemble this, and I'm going to show you the steps to assembling this this cylinder assembly. We're not going to do the disassembly. I've already done that because it was a pretty nasty job, so we're going to show you step by step how to put this back together. Okay, here we are in front of all the components for this cylinder we're going to build, and we're going to start out by telling you what all the components are. This is the cylinder tube itself right here, this silver part. There's a spring. It's spring loaded, and it goes in this assembly right here. The weird thing about this one is it actually is hydraulically lifted, and then the spring lowers it, so it lowers at a slow rate, and it raises up by hydraulics. So the hydraulics basically only does one direction, and that's where we have this one directional valve here. This valve, we turn it on, the hydraulics come on, and it opens the cylinder and pushes the blade up, and we'll demonstrate at the end of this how this works. This is the cylinder tube, the spring, this is the housing that holds the unit, and this is the piston assembly right here. What we're going to have to do is we're going to build this. We're going to put the seal kit on here, and also on the end of this tube, we'll slide this out right quick. On the end of this tube, we have a seal here also we're going to replace. We'll pop this seal out, and we'll replace it with a new seal. And the seal kit, the entire seal kit's right here. This is the packing assembly, and this is the seals and everything that goes in the unit. I'm not sure if all of it's for this, because some of these seal kits are kind of universal and they fit a lot of different units. So it may fit the whole thing, but we'll see when we start taking it apart and putting it all back together. So just follow us along as we go. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is on this tube assembly, we've got a seal right here that we've got to replace, and I have the new seal right here. This is the new one. Looks just like that, and it's going to go right in that little hole. So what we're going to do first, we're going to remove that seal, this old one. I'm going to try this little pry bar. I think it will probably pop this right out. We'll see how it does. It may kind of tear as it comes out. I don't know. Yeah, the seal itself is tearing. That's okay, because we're going to replace it with a new one anyway. Doesn't matter. But oh, I can see we got a little bit of a lip here, and a little edge lip on the side of this, and I'm going to have to take a little chisel and a hammer and just try to kind of tap that out. What I'll do is I'll bend that end. Okay, we're going to take the chisel and put it right in under this seal, and I'm going to try to see if I can kind of tap under it. It's kind of cutting it loose, but I don't like the way it's cutting it, so I'm going to see if I can just maybe catch the edge of it here. It's just the metal part of the seal. I got to get the metal part of that seal kind of started inward. I don't know how this is going to work, because it's been in here for a lot of years. So. All right, the chisel kind of bent in the inside of that. See, it just kind of bent the center, and then it broke it loose, and the whole thing just came out as one piece. That's the best way to do it, really, because there's really no other way to get in there to it. Now, we've also got to remove a little seal that's in there. You can't hardly see it. It's in there, and actually what it looks like is this. This is a piece of it right here, and it folds around inside there, and it's a piece of what they call packing, basically. It wraps around and goes inside that little port in there, and I'll get it out. Let me grab my pick right quick. We'll see if we can just pick it out of here. I'm not sure how easy it's going to come out either, because it's been in here a long time as well. Some of this stuff's been in here a long time, and it's really stuck and dirty and making a big old mess. Let's see. May have to hook it. What I'm doing is going down in between the gap where it wraps around and both sides touch each other. I'm just kind of cleaning the crud out between that little gap, and then I'm going to go in here under it and try to pry away. Let's see if I can pry away the piece on it. Maybe I'll have some luck here. There it goes. You can you see it rolling in right there? I don't know if the light's very good. Hopefully it is, but I'm just going all the way around here and just rolling that little jewel out. And now we'll take it and use my hook here and try to see if I can pull it straight up and out of the hole. There it is. And there's the rolled up piece that we're going to replace with this new one. Here's the new one. That's the old one. So we got the old one out now. And what I'm going to do next is I want to clean up a little bit of this before we do the reassembly. Okay, what I've done is I stuck a pick down into this seal and I'm kind of prying it over and out of the hole. As you can see, it's kind of pulling it out of the hole. And then I'm going to try to grab a hold of it with another pry bar or pry utensil and just bring it on out of the hole, because it has to be just wadded up and popped in there. I think that may be why they call it packing, because you have to pack it in there. It's kind of hard to get this piece in. And the piece is actually this blue piece located right, what did I do with it? Well, there it is right there. This blue piece right here. This is the seal that we're taking out right now, and we're going to reinstall the new one in this hole. We'll have to wad it up. You'll have to squeeze it together and poke it down in there and get it to where it will fit into place. And we'll be doing that next. All right, here's the old seal. We got it out. You see my little poke hole in the side right there where I folded it in and out. And here's the new one we're going to insert. Of course, I'm going to clean the hole out a little bit better first before we put this new one in. But you can see, this is still in pretty decent shape. I know it's all dried out and kind of dirty, but actually not dried out, but it's just dirty. But it really wasn't leaking at the top, so this would have been okay. But I always like to, when I build a cylinder, go ahead and put everything new in that comes in the kit. So that's what we're going to do. We'll be installing this in just a moment. Now you can see that the hole down in there is good and clean and shiny where we're going to be putting this seal. The seal goes way on down in there, so we're going to do that next. And I'll start pushing it down. We're going to start pushing it down in here, and basically you just have to just kind of force it down in the hole. It's really all you can do. And then kind of start working it to where it will turn and angle itself into the position. I don't want to use anything sharp. I'm going to try to use this dull punch right here to kind of turn it into the hole, because that's what I want to do, is I want to get it to go into that little slot. Okay, you notice we got the blue seal down in there. You can see it down in the bottom. We finally got it in place, but this is the old one. What we basically had to do was collapse this, one side of it. Had to kind of, fold it in like this after we got it crammed down in the hole. And, you can't do it with your hands, so you have to use a lot of different special tools. So what we did is I used this punch. I didn't use the sharp tip of it, but the smooth edge of it to kind of help me force it down in there. And then I used this brass punch, and it's good and flat, and I laid it right on top of the seal, and I would just kind of push it a little. Then I even took my hammer and kind of tapped 2 or 3 times, and I finally got it to force itself down into the hole, and it doubled itself around and kind of wadded up and looked terrible for a little bit, and I didn't think it was going to go in there straight, but all of a sudden it just went pop and popped into the hole. And now the seal is in there correctly, and it looks good. So we got it in there where it needs to be. That's about the hardest one I've done, because it's such a small seal. You can't really bend it like you want to, but we got her in there. So we're ready for the next step now, which is going to be putting that packing in. This piece of packing, it'll be next. Now, I'm going to just push it down in here, and we'll try to just roll it around. Actually, it just needs to be kind of in a circular motion, because it just comes together and connects. And I think I might can get this to just kind of roll in here like this. And then like this, we'll push the bottom half in first and get it back into the little hole. Hope that won't go too far down with it. But it's not usually too bad to get this piece of packing in, because it's a 2-piece, or not 2-piece, but it's cut. So it makes it a little easier to get it into the sealing area. So we're doing that now. Okay, we've got this new seal we're going to replace. If you remember the old seal that we took out, you see I kind of caved it in. It looks kind of bad. But the new seal right here in my hand, I'm going to put it on, and I've got a little socket here that I picked out that's about the size of the seal, just a little bit smaller. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this seal right into position here, and then we're going to use this socket to kind of knock it in place. And we'll try to get it to go in there pretty straight. I'll work with it just a minute. It's a little bit crooked there, so. Side in just a little bit more. There we go. And now that side. And now that side again. It's not going in very straight, and the reason being is because the housing is in pretty bad shape. But it's not hurt. It's just we're kind of being rough on the seal a little bit, the outer part of the seal. But if you can see the seal in place now, it's all the way down. And all this really is a dust boot. It don't have any kind of sealing effect, other than the fact it's just a dust boot for the end of the cylinder when it comes through the center of that. So got the seal in place. So this whole top end has been built now. So we're ready now to build the piston, which we'll put together next, and then we'll be ready to slide the piston into the housing and be ready to assemble all this. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and install this rubber seal. Fluid has to be trapped between here and here. Now it'll be trapped between here for that because of that seal kit we just completed on the end of the cylinder, and this seal will seal this side, so we have to turn this so that it will block off, and that it has to be turned just like that. So we're going to slip it over here just like this, and then we're going to stretch it over the top of this. It's a little bit tight, so you got to be real careful, and I'm going to try to place it, put it in there as I go. I'm trying to get it into the notches, or the bottom notches I go, because it's pretty hard to get all of it around there. There we go. Right now it's popped on there. It's got it. And that's the way we want it right there. So we've got it where it will seal in that direction. So that will hold the fluid in that side. And that'll work. Okay, the next step is we're going to take this piece of packing seal here, and it's going to go on this shaft right here around that little opening right there. But it needs to go around it kind of snug. So what I've done is I've taken it and kind of bend it basically with my hand. I'm just pushing it around like this. I don't know if you can see that. I'm just going to kind of push it and force it to kind of make itself into a small bend, and do the same thing this way so that the ends are kind of mashed in. And I'll show you in a minute why I'm doing this. It's really not that hard to get this to kind of stay in place. You know, some of you guys may want to heat it, or maybe put it in warm water or something to kind of get it to form itself, but it's forming itself pretty good. And where it's going to go is right here down in this tube, and down in this tube it's got to stay on that shaft and go right down through there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this up on here and try to go ahead and get it right on here just as snug as I can, and because I want it to stay right around that shaft as tight as possible. There we go, just like that. And that'll hold it in place. And we're going to take some axle grease and put just a little bit of grease on this seal to kind of make it go in there real smooth. We'll just kind of put a little on here, on both, all the way around it. Want it to go down in that tube very easily, so we're going to lube this thing up real good. Some of y'all may want to use pre-lube. There's like a white pre-lube you can use, and a lot of your guys will do that, but I don't have any right now, so I'm just using axle grease. It ain't gonna hurt a thing. And you see it's kind of holding. See, that's kind of staying packed up there tight on that. And I'm hoping in just a second we're going to be able to slide this right into the piece. Gotta give me a little. There we go. All right, now we're going to take this. I'm going to turn it down like this. I'm sorry, this is the way it goes. Just because it's got to go into that cylinder right there as we go. And I'm going to put a little. I tell you what, let's do this before we go any further. Okay, what I'm doing is I turned this around because I want to put a little bit of this grease also down in this end of this seal, so it kind of goes in very easily. We don't want to have any kind of binding as we go in, because this is going to have to go all the way through this tube and come out this end over here with the threads. And in just a second you'll see that. It's got to come out that other side. So we're going to grease it up real good. I'm just going to set it right here like this. And now we'll take the cylinder and drop it down into the tube. And hopefully, if everything goes well, this thing will just work itself right down in there. And I'm going to just kind of wiggle it and push, and wiggle it and push. And if everything goes right, it should work itself right on down in there. And there she goes. She's going down now. There it goes. And now, as we go down, we've got to come out the other side too. So I've got to be very careful doing this as I work that in. You can see it's going. There it goes. All right, now we're actually in the cylinder now. But what I want to do, I don't want to do any damage to the other end, so I'm going to gently, before I go any further, I'm going to turn. I've got this end all the way in now, into that, and the seal's all the way in. So I'm going to turn it over, so I can put a little pressure on the bottom here, and I can actually watch this top side. I'm going to set this down in the floor so I can see this, because I want to see this seal as it comes through, and kind of bump it. Alright, and here she comes through. Got to get her to come all the way out the other side. And there it comes. You may not be able to see that. Let me get this light so you can see. You might can see that little shaft there's got to come right through the middle of that. And here it comes. It's coming right through the middle. I'm going to be real gentle here. Just bump it, bump it, bump it. And there it comes. You can see it's coming. All right, that's the bottom right there, I believe. Now I got a little bit more to go. Yeah, we still got a little more room to go. Okay, got to go a little further. See, this end's got to be pushed all the way through. Let's go just a little further with it. There it comes. And there comes the other end of it, all the way out. I'm not all the way down yet. There we go. I think I've run out of room, but see, the threads are sticking out of this now. And we've got to force this end on through, which shouldn't be any problem. So what we'll do now, we'll turn this up, and I'll have to take something, I'll have to wedge this on both sides and take something and hit this a little further and knock it through tight. You notice it's pretty tight. I'm having to hit it pretty hard. That's because the packing in here is pretty snug, and we want it to be, because we don't want to have any kind of leaks on either side of this cylinder as the hydraulic pressure hits it. I mean, hydraulic pressure can be upwards to 1,500, 2,000, even 3,000 pounds of pressure to raise that Kverneland mower up. So we've got to, hit this pretty hard. So I'm gonna have to tap this on through to get that cylinder to come all the way through the unit. So the next thing we're going to do is get a hammer and go ahead and get this set up so we can do that. Okay, what I've got now is I've found a little sleeve here. I'm going to lay this sleeve down on the ground right here, and we'll set this cylinder right over that sleeve, and it fits right over the top of it so that I can actually knock this down for just a little bit further. I'm just going to take my little ball peen hammer and just give this a couple of taps and try to get it down just a little further in there. There it is. It bottomed out against the concrete right there. And that's as far as I can go with that, but you can see that the cylinders is starting to come out. See, it's coming out the other end, and that's in far enough that I can actually assemble the bottom of the housing now. We'll show that next. Okay, now we're going to go ahead, since we've got this drove in here far enough and the cylinder's sticking out, we're going to go ahead and put the back on this assembly. And see, it's threaded, and it just threads right in the back right here. So we're going to screw this on. And see, there's no fluid supposed to be on this side, so I don't have to worry about any kind of seals. There's actually a hole in the bottom of it, and what that hole did is it actually indicated to us when the cylinder went bad, because when it was bad, fluid was just pouring out the bottom of this cylinder. It shouldn't be pouring out of there. So all we're going to do now is just screw this on here, thread it onto the tube, get it to stay up there. There we go. Just going to screw that on there. And we'll tighten her down with a wrench in just a second to get it all the way bottomed out. We'll be good to go. There we go. probably will back that off a little bit. I think probably right about there. Yeah. All right. Now we're ready to assemble this plate in place. This part's a little tricky. What will happen next is this will go like this in here, well, down in the front right here, and like this. But the only thing we've got missing, something very important, and that is the spring. And this is the spring right here. This sucker is heavy too. This is a big spring. And the next thing we'll do is we'll show you how we're going to collapse this spring down and get it between here. The spring has to be in between here and here. You see, look how much longer it is. It's about, looks like it's about 6 or 8 inches longer. We've got to compress it in. And in just a minute, we're going to show you how to compress this spring down and slide that tube over this spring, and it'll be in the middle of this, and then we'll reassemble this, and the bolt will go right through there to hold it together. Okay, we were unable to video this entire thing because it took both of us to put this together. I had to let my cameraman, which is my son, help me put this together. So we've got it compressed now. We actually ended up using the lift. If you'll notice, this part here is under the lift, and it's compressed the spring down. And we were able to take this plate with this little piece here and get it over against that one, and we put a bolt and a nut in it. So there's a little bolt nut right here that's holding it together. So it's assembled together now, and what we're going to do is we're going to raise the lift back up now, and there's a slot behind here. You can't see it, but you'll see it in just a second in the video. As we raise the lift, this front part will come up until it hits the stop point on that bolt. And then we should be able to take the whole thing out and it be assembled now at this point. So that's what we're really looking for at this moment. So we'll go ahead and raise the lift and continue to try to get this up. I'm going to do something here right quick first. It's probably going to scare my son to death, but I'm going to do a little bump here. What I'm doing is trying to get this bolt lined up here in its notch, where we won't have to fool with it. Okay, now we're ready. So now we're going to raise the lift up, and I'm gonna let him reach over and mash the electrical button. The camera will move just a little bit, but go ahead and do that. Keep the video going here so we can see this, because I want it to come up very gently. So just bump the lift up. Go ahead. Easy. Oh, easy. Whoop. Oh, it didn't move. So now we've got it off the lift, so we turn it around, and you'll notice the bolt is at the bottom of the slot, which we can adjust this part with the hydraulics of the tractor when we get it on the tractor. So we won't worry about this so much right now, because the pressure of the tractor will actually get this where we need it to be. I'm not sure it's at the very bottom of this. I don't think it is, but we can adjust this to what it needs to be at. So we've got it actually together now with the 2 bolts and the spring and everything, and it's in here and ready to go. So we have completed the process. This thing is ready to go, except for we got to put the end on, and we'll do that in just a second. Okay, we're gonna put this end on and everything. The end actually holds the assembly together, and it also houses the hydraulic control lever, and the hose will be connected to it. So we're going to do all this at one time. I'm just going to put a little grease in this in these threads here, so hopefully this will go together a little better. Not sure how well it's going to work, but we'll. I've already cleaned all this up, and you notice it kind of looks kind of black and sooty. That's because I had to use a torch to take it apart. It had been together so long it wouldn't come apart, so that's why it's so black and sooty. And I guess I could have painted it back up and made it look pretty, but we're going to use this thing every day. We're not worried about that. So now we're going to try to tighten this on here. That's what I thought was going to happen, and it is. See, the cylinder is turning, so we're going to have to hold it still while I tighten up. And that's going to be a little bit tricky. Let's see how I can do this. Oh, I know. I can put vice grips on it right there. It won't hurt anything, because that cylinder don't go down in there at that point. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a pair of vice grips on it. Now we're going to continue on tightening this, and see if it's going in there. I'm holding that with vice grips so we can get it screwed in there. I don't know if you can see this. I've got to get it screwed in there so that opening in the top right there is lined up with the opening in that cylinder in in the center. See, it's got to come on around a few more rounds till I get it lined up there. Not necessarily that it has to be tight. It just has to be in place. That might do it. Let's take a look at it and see how it does. I'm not sure. I might have to get one more round on it. Let me see how much we like here. You can probably see that the hole in the center is lining up with the hole. I believe that's going to work right there. See, the hole in the center is lined up just right. So now we got it where we need it, and we can just, I think we can get these vice grips off of here, and then all we got to do now is screw this into the center of this. Alright, and we'll snug it down just a little bit. I'm going to use these vice grips to do this. Probably not orthodox, but it'll work. Just going to get it a little snug so that it won't leak. I don't know what position we're going to want that handle in. I'm thinking maybe right there. I'm not sure because the handle just moves like a half a turn. It does that right there, off, and that way on. That's off and that's on. So we'll leave it right there. If it's not in the right position, after we get it on the tractor, we can adjust it, because I really don't remember where it's at when we put it together. And then next we put the hydraulic hose on. Okay, now we're ready to assemble this hydraulic line, but I'm going to put some thread tape on here first. Had to go locate some. I knew y'all would probably have some comments about me not using thread tape if I didn't, so we'll make sure that we do that properly. And now we're ready to start that in the hole. Just going to start it with my fingers, and then we'll take the wrench, which I've already got laid in here. Alright, now we're completed. Hydraulic hose is on here, and this hose has got this end. Tell you what we'll do, we'll go ahead and put a piece of thread tape on this. Let me move this out of the way. I'll go ahead and just cheat here and put this little thing in the vise. This one hadn't been threaded either, so I'm going to put this little piece in the vise right here to hold it. And then we'll put a little thread tape on this end right here. Don't need a lot because this is kind of a tapered fit tubing anyway. As you tighten it, it tightens up into the housing. So basically what I'm doing now is just putting that end on there. That end is what connects to the tractor. Tractor has that little quick disconnect fitting on it, and that gives us the hydraulic pressure we need to continue on. Hopefully that won't come out there and hurt me while I'm tightening it. Okay, now a job well done. Cylinder is ready to go. Next step will be putting this on the tractor and making sure that she works.